Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. Good afternoon, guys.
Baby horchata.
Hey, nice to meet you. Good afternoon. Oh, you know what? Hey, we don't know where the conversation is going to go. We're going to get started and we're going to have a little fun. We're going to talk about all kinds of stuff. We're probably going to be surprised halfway through what we end up talking about.
What's going on, everyone? It's your boy Los Cut It, and you're in the cut with today's guest. But first, my homie Ruben Horchata. What's up? I keep calling you Ruben Horchata because that's my way of that's exclusive for me. But I gotta learn to say baby Horchata.
All good, bro.
Who's our guest today, man?
Our guest today.
Oh, you want me to introduce him?
No, I know. No, trust me. Ever since you sent the DM, I had to do my own research on it. Because I ain't a barber. I'm a comedian, so it's been a blessing being a part of the show because I get to meet people from all walks of life. So without further ado, you already know what it is. The famous saying, this show is going to be a banger. Today we have Ivan Zoot, man. How you doing, baby?
I am doing well. Thank you so much for having me. It's good to meet you. Good to see you, my friend.
Likewise, man. Likewise.
Absolutely.
This is episode 7. Episode 7?
8?
Yeah, episode 7 because Mario was 6.
6? Okay.
I had to get you on here, Ivan, simply because for those of you guys that don't know, Ivan, you're a legend. You are a legend. And to me, I had to pay my respects. 1, because you're a legend. 2, you're from Chicago. And 3, you're probably one of the smartest, most intelligent, most knowledgeable people in the industry today.
Wow, I would rather be introduced as a comedian. No.
No, that's baby horchata.
No, y'all actually make money.
There's no money in that? I'm not interested. Suddenly, I'm no longer interested. Yeah, no, thank you so much. You know what? I take a great deal of pride in watching you,
awesome,
and several other folks that are hometown folks, the Chicago folks, at the shows all over, in our industry, all over the world. We represent Chicago extremely well.
100%.
So, yeah, and I'm a big fan of yours. I love the stuff you put out in terms of the hair work and things like that, and some of the other content. So there's no good reason why we shouldn't be spending time together.
100%.
And getting together for things like this. So thank you for including me.
Of course. I feel like there's a lot of value that you could bring to us, to the people watching, to everybody. I mean, this podcast will forever be, one of the things one of the reasons why I wanted to get into it was because it wasn't about, we're going to get thousands of views or millions of views. To me, it was about being able to capture the information. Because whether we watch it today or 2-3 years from now, the information is going to be there. And I know you have a lot to give. And I personally wrote out a lot of topics that I want to talk about. Because even though I know who you are and I'm familiar with what you do, there's still a lot that I don't know about you. And I think it goes both ways. And I think it's also, you don't know anything about Ruben, a.k.a. Baby Horchata. It's so hard to call you Baby Horchata. I don't know why. Maybe because I got introduced to you as Ruben, so bear with me.
All good, baby.
You know what Baby Horchata means?
I don't know. Little ears, right?
No. So horchata is that Mexican rice water drink.
Horchata is Italian for little ears. It's that pasta that's shaped like little ears.
Oh, you see?
Bro, you should be a tour guide. Yeah. By the way you've been speaking, and I was going to ask you, have you been a pilot in your past life, bro? Because you were like, the global East.
No, I haven't been a pilot. I've just spent way too much time with my butt in the seat.
And I can't wait to be as knowledgeable as you guys when it comes to traveling one day.
Yeah, no, this guy definitely knows. So,
what does it mean?
So horchata is origin. I just learned this too. My black homies let me know. They're like, "Hey man, you know how much history is hidden from us?" I'm like, "What?" I was like, did you know horchata's not even yours? I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "It was actually made in Nigeria." And I was like, "Oh wow, Nigeria." And then Spain, like they always do, they take stuff and they try to make it theirs, and then they brought it to Mexico, and then we make it retail to what it is. So it is a Nigerian drink, but I love horchata. Yeah.
Wow.
So fun fact, guys.
It's a rice water. If you go to any traditional Mexican restaurant, they'll have it there.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's how you know if you're in a legit Mexican restaurant.
Okay.
If you ask for horchata and they say, "Oh, we don't have that," then you get up.
Run away.
Yeah. So horchata is a rice water drink, and then the baby just came from his good looks. So I'm not playing. Where'd you get baby from?
Oh, I love baby mama. So.
All right. So I want to get straight to it. There's a few topics that I want to just cover. Now, the first things first, Ivan, I'm not sure if you know, when I first heard about you was probably about, I want to say 10 years ago. I was on YouTube and I did a fast fade. I did a fast fade in like 3 minutes and 6 seconds. And it went viral. Like at the time, it hit like 30,000 views in a couple months on YouTube. And I was like, what? And it was just pretty much, I did a 2 on top and a 0 fade. And I got it done within 3 minutes and 6 seconds. What people don't know is that I probably cut like 10 people before that to get to that timing. And when I finally got to that, I beat it. And one day I'm at a hair show and somebody was complimenting me on it. And I was like, oh, thanks, man. And they're like, have you heard about Ivan's record? And I was like, Ivan who? And they're like, Ivan Zoot. You know, he had a record. I'm not sure what it was. Don't quote me on that, but I know it was something crazy. It was like a minute or something, right? If I'm not mistaken.
It's crazy.
Right. So I'm going to let you talk about that. But when I heard that, I was like, no way. Because at the time, you know, me being very prideful, especially at a younger age, 10 years ago, I was like, no way. Because I knew I worked hard to get those 3 minutes. So how is someone going to work that much harder to get it, not just 3 minutes, but way shorter? So that was when I first heard about you. And then obviously we travel a lot. I've been educated for various companies for the last 10 years. So I was able to be at certain shows that I got to see you in and talk. And you've always been a great presenter, a great host, etc. So talk to us about that. For the people that have no clue, what is this world record? How did you get it? How did it come about? And if I'm not mistaken, it was a Guinness World Record as well, right?
Correct.
Oh,
Well,
wow.
here's the deal. The world records for haircutting that I have broken would never have happened if I didn't live in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
The connection to Chicago is February. In February in a barbershop or hair salon, 14 inches of snow in the parking lot, nobody's getting a haircut.
No.
A bunch of haircutters are sitting around talking smack and all kinds of subjects. And it turned into, I'm faster than you. No, I'm faster than you. No, I'm faster than you. Now, you got to remember, this is 1996, 7. And at that point, there's not an internet like we have today.
Not at all.
You can't go online and Google a world record. So we got a copy of the book, and I did a little looking, and it turns out there were world records for haircutting speed.
Wow.
And I looked at the record for fastest haircut in the world, and I said, I can't do that. And I looked at the record for most haircuts in 1 hour, and I said, you know, I bet I could do that. So what I did was this. I set about creating a system, not a haircut, but a system for any haircut shoulder length or shorter. And I polished and worked on this. I literally cut one client every night at 9 o'clock when the shop closed, after hours, no charge. And I had one of my employees, I paid them to hang with me for the hour to watch and learn what I was going to be doing. I also started physically training because I was going to go for also the 24-hour world haircut record.
Which is what?
We'll get there. Hang on. So, hey, build a little suspense for the audience here, all right? Long story short, I practiced. I did some events in cosmetology schools to kind of work through my system. And it was interesting when you talked about cutting 8 or 9 people to get to that record, because I'll tell you a story about that in a bit. But long story short, we had a charity event and a publicity stunt. We charged money for the haircuts. We gave all the money away to charity.
Nice.
I had a live band in the parking lot. We made a big thing out of it. Originally, the record for the most haircuts in an hour was 18 haircuts in an hour? In 1 hour.
Okay,
that was the original record.
Let me ask you this. What determined the haircut? Because it could have been as simple as a snip.
Bingo.
Right.
That's one of the common questions. There's 2 questions I get about the world records. One of them, of course, is what's a haircut? And the answer is not an official Guinness World Record, but the haircutting world record of all the records that Guinness tracks actually has the longest list of specifications or qualifications for what is, because a haircut's a creative endeavor.
100%.
How do you measure and qualify that? Well, the answer is a couple things. Number one, got to be a full head of hair. If you're thin in the crown or receded at the front hairline, less than a full head of hair would be less than a haircut. So anybody who presents as a potential haircut candidate to participate with less than a full head of hair, they're disqualified already.
Wow.
Number 2, you got to take a ½ inch off every hair on the head. So if I show up and I'm tightly faded at the sides, you can't take a ½ inch off my sides. You couldn't use me as a model for the world record.
Okay.
Another one, you have to leave a minimum of 2 centimeters from the front hairline to the top crown. That rule specifically is designed to eliminate a guard on the top of the head and all over buzz cut. That's sheep shearing. You know, that's agriculture. That's not cosmetology or barbering. So that group of haircuts were disqualified. And because we're up against these time constraints, I had my judges pre-disqualify. They looked at the group of people we assembled and said, no, he's no good. No, he's no good. Because I can't afford to have one cut who's then removed at the back end.
Yeah.
I'm never going to make my record. So tight criteria for what is or isn't a haircut. And there were about 18 total specs that each haircut had to meet the rules of. No one else is allowed to touch the hair except me, a whole bunch of stuff like that. Long story short, 18 haircuts is the world record. I do 22 in 1 hour. This is 1998 at my shop in the northern suburbs of Chicago. I also broke the record for fastest haircut in the world. That was about 2 minutes and 23 seconds at the time, and I did a haircut in 2:09.
What does that mean?
2 minutes,
Oh, 2
23.
minutes.
2
I thought
minutes.
he was giving me
2 minutes.
closure.
2 minutes and 9 seconds. 2:09. So I broke both of them. Now, I was already traveling and teaching. I owned my shop. I'm involved in the business in a big way. I wrote a book called Time is Money. It was one of my first books that shared my efficiency system and told the story of the world records.
Okay.
So now I'm traveling and doing shows, and while I'm doing that, some wise guy breaks my records. That pissed me off.
Wow.
So originally I broke the records on August 23rd of 98.
Okay.
10 years later, August 23rd of 2008, down in Texas, and at the time I'm an Andis corporate employee, we staged a massive charity event and publicity stunt at a hair salon chain training center.
Okay.
And on that day, I reclaimed the world record for most haircuts in an hour. I reclaimed the world record for fastest haircut in the world. And I also upped the ante by breaking again the world record for the most professional haircuts, nonstop, straight through, 24 hours without a break.
Oh my.
So here's what it
God.
came down to. I had done 22 in an hour. Somebody broke my record. They did 23. So I did 34 haircuts in 1 hour.
34 haircuts?
That's the world
What did that break down a haircut?
Fast.
No, I'm saying.
So wait, let's get to the next half. The next piece of this was single fastest haircut.
Okay.
Now, originally the record had been about 2 minutes, 23 seconds. I did one in 2 minutes and 9 seconds. Guy that broke my record got it down under 2 minutes. Once again, I'm not happy about that.
Wow.
16 of the haircuts that I cut that day were faster than the original under 2 minute world record. Fastest I've ever done is one single haircut before, during, and after, judged by a panel of judges in 55 seconds. Got it under a minute. And the message I have for your community of listeners is this. I'm too old for this, and I am never doing this again. Now it's up to some young person, whether they're young on their driver's license or they're just young between their ears. It's up to some young person to take a look at my system, to enhance and improve it, because I did it August 23rd of 98 and August 23rd of 08. That's 10 years to the day. I'm never doing it again. So now it's for somebody else to improve on my system. Today, the tools are better.
Oh, yeah.
The technology has been elevated. There's systems. There's no question. Records are made to be broken. 100%. Every 4 years, the world gets together for the Olympics, and records fall. When I die and they bury me in the ground and they put the little rock on top of the hole, it's going to have my name and the dates, and it will not say Guinness World Record holder. Someone will break them. But it will say Guinness World Record breaker, because you can't take that away.
100%.
And now I want to help this person. This young person, male or female, Cos or Barber, if you want to break that record, I want to help you do it.
Whoa. Okay, so let me ask you this, because I'm curious. How did the Guinness World Records get involved? How did you contact them? How do they keep track? Is it something you do on your own with your team and submit it? Or they come out and track you?
Again, the world has changed. Back when I did it, you had to send, real paper in the mail.
Wow.
Okay,
What?
you remember that? To Guinness in London, and you had to apply to break the record. Guinness would then send you, and the way world records work with Guinness is, whoever breaks the record first sets the rules. So you say, this is what I'm doing, this is what I did. From that point forward, anyone who wants to break the record has to break it based on the rules that were used to set it. So first guy in gets to set the terms. I was not the first guy in. There was already a record. So I was bound to follow those rules. But it was Federal Express packages back and forth from London. Today, you can go online, you can go on a website, you can research the record, you can download the specs, you can fill out the paperwork, and you can submit online for a world record.
Wow.
Now, one option for people is whether or not you have a Guinness representative present for the event, or whether you're going to be submitting and filing all the documentation. Now, I will tell you, I will never forget, the documentation I sent to London was a Federal Express package, cost me $129.
Back then was
Back
a
then.
lot.
It's still a lot.
Yeah.
But today you wouldn't have to do that, because today it would just go via email and, done in an instant. But you can still do this. Go to GuinnessWorldRecords.com, do the research, and go for it.
So who holds the record now?
I have no idea whether or not they've been broken or not. Guinness doesn't notify me as a world record holder. I've seen some things over the years about people breaking records, but you also have to remember Guinness is an official sanctioning body. There are people out there claiming records, not just in haircutting, but for many things that are not necessarily Guinness World Records, which means it isn't vetted by them, and it's like, you and I can start a baseball team That doesn't make it Major League Baseball.
100 facts. I know what you mean. Yeah, I know what you mean.
So yeah, there are people out there doing great things in our business, and there's plenty of people out there faster than me. There's plenty of people out there better than me, whether they've, and I say this all the time, breaking the world record's not the hard part. It's doing the paperwork. You know, I'm sure some of the people that you do business with will tell you it's not hard to get you to go to a hair show. It's hard to get you to turn in the expense form.
Oh my God. I still haven't turned from, where did we go? Orlando premiere, was it a few months ago? I still haven't.
That was in June.
Yeah. But it's just, it's always there. It's always on the back end of my mind. Like, you know what? I'll let a couple pile up, turn it in, and get that lump sum. But it's the paperwork, man.
See, I'm a lunatic for paperwork, which is probably why I have the world record. I'm the guy that when I had a corporate job, I would go back to my hotel room every night, and I would log into my expense account and log the dinner I just ate and the parking from that day, so that at the end of the week, the process of an expense report took about a minute and a half.
Oh my God.
And I had coworkers who would like wait the whole month. They'd do 12 expense reports a year. But I got credit cards. The bills are coming. You know, I need this money to pay the bills.
And then, you know, corporate, they don't, I'm not sure if you know, corporate doesn't, you don't just send it in and get your check. They just minimum, what, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, a month?
Yeah, and if you're putting this on your visa, I mean, hopefully we got deep enough pockets to be able to float the visa.
Right.
And I mean, I can remember back in the day, man, when I was hiring educators to do shows, and you'd have an educator that's, you know, we're sending him down to Atlanta to do the Bronner Brothers show, and you'd get a panicked phone call on Friday at 6 p.m. from your educator in the lobby of the hotel because he hasn't got enough credit on his credit card to pay for his hotel room. And I'm like, dude, come on, we got to be a bunch of professionals here. Yeah. And those were real challenges for some folks back in the day.
That or even being with people that don't even have a credit card to put on file.
You want to hear a great story?
Yeah, of course.
I hired a guy from Miami to do a hair show for us once. And I had dinner with him in Miami. I met his girlfriend. We went out to dinner. He's a talented hair cutter. He's a good presenter. He presents himself well.
Do I know this person?
Well. You may know him. He was a flash in the pan. He got real popular and then he vanished. But the funny thing about this guy was I had got him all set up to do a hair show. And we sent him a plane, or no, this wasn't the plane ticket. He calls me up 2 days before a show. He says, how am I supposed to get to the show?
2 days before?
And he lived in like Miami and the show was in Orlando. I go, well, I'm not going to buy you a plane ticket to fly from Miami to Orlando. You just drive. It's like 3 hours. He goes, I don't have a driver's license.
Oh,
dang.
So now I know why the girlfriend drove him to dinner. But shame on me for not asking.
100%.
I had another guy who he had his name. I thought that was his name. And I bought him an airplane ticket. And he calls me up from the airport going, they won't let me get on the airplane because my airplane ticket doesn't match my driver's license. I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, well, my name is this. I go, I've never heard that name. You know, I didn't know your name was Harold. He goes, you know, I thought your name was Los Cut It.
Right. So you booked him off as like a nickname or something?
We bought him his airplane ticket with his nickname because nobody ever knew it wasn't his nickname. And, you know, shame on me for maybe not asking, is that your real name? But do you really have to do that?
That's true. Do you when you ask them for information to book, that's what he sent you, the nickname?
Yeah, he sent me the nickname.
Oh my God, then it's his fault.
That's on him.
You're not gonna send somebody.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're not gonna send me to host one of your events. Be like, hey, baby or child. Yeah, just put me down.
But you know, hey, look, you know what? These are lessons I learned coming up in the business. Shortly after that, I created a form that I would ask the educators to fill out.
Real name.
I want your legal name. I want your driver's license number.
Your social
so if you leave the driver's license number blank, I know we can't rent you a car.
I know one time they gave me a hard time because my last name's Estrella. It requires 2 L's. And the person that booked it only applied 1 L. And I'm just like, telling TSA, like, I understand, but what are the odds that there's another person that has the same name and last name with 1 L? Like,
correct.
Come on. So they let me through, but they were just like, we're not supposed to. And that's when I knew I always double check. When you get everything, you have to double check everything because it happens. It happens all the time. Now, Ru, how do you feel? Like, I know you're new to all this about that Guinness World Record.
That's not, because I'm thinking ever since he said this, I'm like, but how? Because, I mean, because all the haircuts now, I mean, and putting it in my seat, it takes an hour, you know what I mean, for a good one, you know. Were these good?
No, it doesn't.
Now, were these good? Hold on, hold on. Not talking your skill set down, but were these great haircuts? That you would display as your work?
The answer is they were judged by a panel of judges whose qualifications allowed them, according to the Guinness rules, to serve as a judge. They had to be clean and passable. Now, they are not this. You don't do this to cash-paying customers in a shop.
Yeah.
There's no question. This is different than retail commerce.
Yeah.
Okay, absolutely. But they had to be, if you had sideburns, they had to be even. If you're cutting around the ear, it had to be clean.
Okay.
If the neckline's tapered, it's got to be. It can't be unbalanced. It can't be heavy on one side. I'm not going to tell you that any one of these haircuts would look like a $50 haircut walking out of a Chicago barber shop.
Right.
No, but am I going to tell you they look like a legitimate haircut? Yeah. Absolutely.
That's all that matters.
And because one of the people ask all the time, did you razor line everybody? And the answer is no. I used a trimmer but if I had to line the front edge with a trimmer, if I had to clean around the ears, I'm not lathering and razor lining everybody. So by those kind of standards, these are not modern top-end barbershop haircuts.
Right. And I think that's the thing with people. They apply so much extra work nowadays with enhancements and razor work and hot towels and all that. The thought of someone doing that in 1 minute is like, no way. How?
That's what I'm saying. Because every time it's like a service, it almost feels like, you know what I mean? It's like a full experience per se. So I'm thinking like, man, someone said you had your, because did the time start when the client was in the seat, or did it start like when you were done like going?
Here's what you got to remember. When Michael Phelps breaks Olympic world records for swimming, he shows up on the front page of Time magazine wearing 8 medals. And his name is on the front of Time magazine. But what is not on the front page of Time magazine is the names of the 49 other people necessary to get that world record. His coach and his strength trainer and his mom and his weed dealer and all of the people that are necessary. There's a team of people behind anybody doing great things, okay? You're watching this podcast. There's people behind the scenes adjusting sound and editing and doing all the things necessary so that we can deliver quality content. Same thing with haircuts like that. I had a team of people. One person's job was to get a client in a chair and cape him and drape him. One person's job was to sweep the floor so I don't slip and crack my head. One person's job is to reset the tools on the counter like a NASCAR pit stop so I don't have to think when I reach for a trimmer or a clipper. One person's job was to have a consultation with the client out loud that I listened to, and I used multiple chairs. So I'm cutting in chair 1 while chair 2 is being reset, and I have my consultation coach talking to the client, and I'm listening, and I'm going, put a number 2 blade on that clipper. So that when I drop the tool, and look, I'm not setting the tools down nicely. There's a sink at the station. I'm chucking the tools in the sink, jumping chairs. Behind me at that last chair, everything's being redone. Tools are being pulled. Tools are being sprayed and sanitized. Everything's being reset. Clients being caped and draped because, hey, in a couple of seconds, I'm coming back.
Wow.
And this continues. So there's a whole team of people with responsibility. And what I tell people is everybody had a little job. And like everything else in life, whether you're running a barber shop, everybody has a little job. Do your job. Because if one person doesn't do their little job, the whole thing collapses. All I had to do was cut hair. But I had to be in a situation in which everybody knew what their responsibilities were and was executing those responsibilities flawlessly, even if all your job was to pull the hair out of the way with a broom.
Yeah.
You're still a vital component.
100%.
It's like one little gear in the transmission of your car. One tooth chips off one gear, you're stalled in the middle of the street.
Oh my God. That, you know what? Now that makes more sense to me.
Yeah.
Now I see it because
this isn't just me.
Right.
No,
now,
but
I'm picturing what you said, 32 haircuts in 1 hour?
34.
34, right? And as you're telling me this, I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, I could picture you finishing up, taking the cape off, having somebody else sit, doing all this. And I'm like, no, like that's a lot of work. But now it's a lot easier and better if you're just done. Next person, next chair.
I had to shave fractions of seconds off of every single action. And the funny story behind this is, broke the world records, and I reach out to be on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno.
Wow.
To be on The Tonight Show as a guest, because I broke the world records. So I'm on the phone with a producer from The Tonight Show who wants to know, we're setting up, maybe I'm going to come to LA, I'm going to be on The Tonight Show, this is going to be cool, and asks the question, now the world record is 55 seconds. Could you do it in 45? And my answer to this person was, I can't do it in 45. I can't even do it in 55. She goes, what do you mean? And to your point earlier, I said, to break the world records, I need a group of clients. I need to line them up, and I got to start cutting them. And what I know from having done this multiple times is, if I'm going to break the world record, it's going to happen on haircut number 5, 6, 7, or 8. because I got to settle in, get my groove, get my hands settled in, get rid of the nervousness, kind of find my groove. But then 5, 6, 7, 8, those are my sweet spot. By haircut number 8, if I don't break the record, it's not going to happen today because I'm toast.
Yeah.
Because between the physical effort and the psychological effort and everything else, so there's some things you do. So as an example, when you're setting up your group of clients, you're very deliberate in who are haircuts number 5, 6, 7, and 8.
Right.
Because we all know just from regular work in the shop, every one of your listeners in the beauty and barber business can understand. We have clients that when they walk in the door, we know I can bang that one out quick. Or we look at another one and go, that one's going to take me some time.
100%.
So I'm going to be a little deliberate about who sits in spots. I'm going to do everything I can to stack the deck in my favor.
Wow.
It's still a legitimate world record, but I am going to leverage every available advantage to secure the world, like any other business proposition.
Dude, that
process.
makes so much more sense.
Yeah, dude.
And this is why it's hard to break a world record, because people come up to me at shows all the time going, dude, I'm gunning for you. And I'm like, have at it. Have at it.
You got
my
a
friend.
target.
Yeah, but I'm looking at this guy and his shirt is buttoned with button number 3 and hole number 4. And I'm like, dude, I'm not really worried about you.
You know, and that brings a great. It's like a boxer, right? You get 12 rounds. It's very, very rare that boxers are going to come in and start fighting their fullest in the first, second, third round. Usually their sweet spots is round 6, 7, 8.
You have a strategy.
You understand your opponent. You understand what you're doing. You're feeling better. Your confidence is there. And that's the sweet spot. So that makes sense. Instead of someone starting like how I would have done it, it's just practice, finish. If I didn't complete it, all right, let me get another one. Let me reset, and start cold. You're starting off fat. You're warming yourself up, and on 6, 7, 8, you're like, time these, because I'm already in the zone.
When I pulled in here, now, of course, those are familiar with headquarters here in Chicago know that the highlight of a headquarters visit is when you drive in the overhead door with your Lamborghini. Now, of course, I didn't do that because we drove up in a Subaru. But what you got to remember is my Subaru's got a top speed of, maybe 80. However, if you're on the highway going 55 and you punch it,
Yeah.
you can get to 80 quick.
100%.
But if you're sitting at a red light and you punch a Subaru, it just goes, really?
That's a good analogy. 100%.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you got to have a running start.
That's a clip right there, JC.
Literally. Like,
Yeah.
you have anything? Let me look up some topics. I have
All good, man. Because everything you've been talking, I'm just trying to visual everything.
Well, while you're visualizing, my friend, I think you need to get on your phone. I think you need to Google whether there is a Guinness World Record for comedy.
I will.
for comedy.
Well, I don't want him to go after the haircut record.
Yeah.
Nonstop. Al Roker on the Today Show has a Guinness World Record for continuous weather broadcasting.
Which is what?
Who knows what it is? But there's a Guinness World Record for everything. So if this guy wants to tell jokes nonstop, now I got to tell you, we're like 20 minutes into the interview and I haven't laughed at him yet. So I think
I'm a listener today, bro. You gonna you want to talk about my dating life? I can make you laugh in a heartbeat, bro.
there you go. All right.
So yeah, you should look into that.
No, I'm about to literally
Guinness
right
World
now. Yeah.
He's got his phone out. All right.
Keeping people's attention for hours along, that might be.
Man, I was sweating after 30 minutes over here, bro. Let alone doing 30 hours.
So I'm curious, Ivan. 2 questions. How long have you been doing hair for?
35 years.
35 years. I mean, that's an extra 11 years on me. That's insane.
There you go. You know what? But I haven't done any work yet. It's just been fun. I've had, a lot of different jobs and roles and titles and positions from obviously working for, large manufacturers to owning a hair salon to now running my own business in the education end of the business and things like that. But it's been a lot of fun. It continues to change. But I will tell you this. Here we are. It is October of 2022. And for those of your listeners that are Kaiser Barber students, there's never been a better time in the history of our business
100%.
to get into our business. There's never been more opportunity. At the beginning of the pandemic, I got in a little bit of trouble.
Why?
Because I said stuff. And every time I say stuff, my wife always goes, stop saying stuff. You're going to get in trouble when you say stuff. Don't say stuff. But one of the first things I said was, when I saw the pandemic unfolding, I said, we're going to lose 1 out of 5. We're going to lose 20% of the barbers and cosmetologists in America. Turns out I was close. It was 19%.
Wow.
I said, we're going to lose 1 out of 5 of the barbershops and hair salons in America. I was right. Turned out to be 20%. But what that means is right now, especially post-pandemic with what we've seen in haircut price increases, there are more clients buying more services for more money from fewer people in fewer locations. That's a formula for rock and roll this business.
Yeah.
So 35 years in the business, I've never seen an economy with nearly 10% inflation like we're experiencing right now.
Yeah, it's
but I've
insane.
never seen a business landscape that looks quite like what it does right now.
100%. I mean, I just came from London, and everything out there, even though the pound it's slightly a bit more than the dollar, everything felt so much cheaper out there compared to here in America.
Oh, I just had lunch on the way down here to come visit you. Everything felt really expensive at lunch.
100%. I think I seen a bag of pistachios for like $12 out here. I was
Yeah.
like, what? And
Yeah.
a bag of hot chips for like $5 something?
Yeah.
It's insane. So I'm curious to know, are you a dual license or?
Yeah, I went to cos school first. I got a cosmetology license. A couple years later, I went back to school and got a barber license here in the state of Illinois.
Nice.
So
Do you have an instructor license as well?
I do not have an instructor's license. That's literally the only credential I don't possess, I think, in the industry, and the only job I have never held. I've never been a licensed cosmetology or barber school instructor. I'm a guest in a lot of schools to come in and present and share,
Same
and I
here.
help out on the clinic floor a lot. I love doing that, spending time on the floor in schools with new professionals in our business. But no, not an, you know what? And kudos to any instructor who's out there listening. Cosmetology or barber school instructor is lion tamer, police officer, babysitter, zookeeper. It's a tough job.
It is a tough job.
And yeah,
It's molding our next generation.
well, and our next generation isn't always interested in participating enthusiastically. They're a bit of a challenge.
But I mean, is it like that for you guys in the comedy world? Like seeing these new runners come up and not appreciating or valuing what it takes to be big?
Oh, bro, it's like, because I'll even say, bro, because I'm only 3 years into this, and I've already had such a huge different mindset. Like, I've watched me go from that dude to being, you know, I'm not a veteran, but I could play the part as a veteran and, you know, not going to open mics. You know what I'm saying? I feel like people do their first show and they do good, and they think, oh, I'm going to be the greatest there ever was. I don't need to go to open mics without those scrubs. Like, and then when you go to the mics, you see all, like, the big comics there, because they're literally training for what's next. They're really,
I think, yeah, it'll be the same, right? Like you said, right? You get one comedian that does one good show and it feels like they're better. You get one barber or hairdresser that'll do one type of hair, one type of client, kill it, and think that's it. And I realized that, dude, there's a variety. 35 years, 24 years, what I can tell people is, once you understand the different type of textures, the features, the skin tone, like, there's so much you need to learn, because every single haircut requires a different approach depending on the hair and the person.
And you know, it's interesting when he mentions open mic nights, which, you know, is a something I've got to try at some point, because I think I'm funny. I'm not
you're
sure.
a good storyteller, bro. You have and speaking on your question, bro, I found the answer to that. Someone performed for name's Tommy Ternan from Tennessee, performed for 36 hours
Of stand-up, continuous stand-up
continuous stand-up. And there was another record that it was 4 comedians put together, did a show together. The longest continuous show, it was 80 hours, and there had to be a minimum of 10 people in the crowd.
comedy. Okay, we have set the bar.
So it was 80 hours, and each comedian had to go more than 15 minutes.
Okay.
That's
Now, when you mention open mic nights, the open mic night of the beauty and barber business is doing educational presentations at cos and barber schools. Because number one, you don't get paid. Number two, it's fabulous practice in front of an audience that tends to be a little more forgiving. I mean, you know this, Carlos.
Oh, yeah.
When you get up on stage at a major international beauty and barber show, you better be game on, because they're going to eat you up.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and some of that, I love hecklers because I just have fun with them, but they're going to eat you up. When you get up in front of a group of students that have 135 hours of their 1,500-hour cosmetology education, you can be less than your best. And I've got a brand new class coming out January 1, and I've got I'm excited. I can't tell you much about it, but this is where my wife's going, stop talking. I've got a new tool coming out January 1 that I'm excited to launch in the industry. But before I take that to the major shows around the country, I'm going to take that tool and I'm going to take that class to beauty and barber schools to rough out the kinks, to practice.
Wow.
And that's the open mic. And 35 years in, I'm still going to beauty and barber schools.
You're always gonna be a student.
I'm still going. I'm still doing the shakedown runs with this stuff, and still learning. Because in my case, some of it, like where you test a joke to see the audience, and we had a really cool experience once when we were in New York. We went to the pre-taping of Seth Meyers' TV show,
Okay.
late night, I think it is. and he's testing jokes. And he's got his writers there, and he'll deliver a joke, and then right there they're talking about it, and then they'll do the same exact joke with a different punchline. Or they'll do a different setup with the same punchline, and he's working them out for what goes on TV that night. Well, I want to do the exact same thing with my presentations, because at the end of the day, I've got to have a sales transaction. Money has to move across the table. Well, over time, I've learned to work on what are the lines, where are the pauses, because as you know from comedy, sometimes what you say is not nearly as important as that quiet point in between what you say and what you don't.
Power to pause.
Yeah. So, I still work out what are the things that you see people's eyes light up. And I had a great experience with this. I did some home shopping TV, QVC kind of online sales where they've got the monitors with the people on hold and the sales numbers coming in and the tracking. And, you got a little thing in your ear and you hold something up a certain way and you say something and all of a sudden sales spike and the producer in your ear going, say that again.
Wow.
Say that again because it worked. So it's a form of the same kind of honing your craft.
Facts.
That really probably is no different in haircutting than comedy.
Oh, it's a different lane, but at the end of the day, man, like I've realized that when it comes to cosmetology, hair, or acting, comedy, whatever, it's almost the same language.
It's the same hustle.
It's the same. I understand everything you're saying. I can understand you, literally. So it's like it's a universal language, bro. So
yeah.
Speaking on like being on the big stages, when you said hecklers, like is there someone saying, man, hey, you pushed that dude's hairline back? Is that like?
It can go both ways. I know there's.
Made you laugh.
I'm sure Ivan's gonna share. He's gonna share his how he feels about that. With me, I think a lot of people. Because one thing about me, and I'll let it be known, because I have zero shame on it. I'm a hair artist at heart. I've never been like someone that's been into like breaking down tools and mechanically building them back up and knowing the blades and all that.
Sure.
I'm an artist. Give me whatever, I'll make it happen. So sometimes I'll be on stage. Not even on stage, private classrooms in my ears, and somebody would be like, what kind of comb is that? Is that a 7 so-and-so or 8666? I'm not familiar with that. So I'm going to be like, what do you think? Owning that by simply just not letting that person get to me and asking them, like, and I'll let them know, like, well, I'm not really familiar with my combs, but this is what I use. Can you tell me what this is? And give them the opportunity to talk about it. And you'd be surprised when you give someone that limelight, when you shine that light on them, how quick they can choke.
Yeah.
And they'll sit there and be like, oh,
They'll back off.
They'll
It's
back
no
off.
different than hecklers with comedy is you turn shine a spotlight on them, they'll back down quick because don't come to a gunfight with a water pistol.
Right. Yeah.
100%.
Hang on. I just want to touch on something there. Funny story. Minot, North Dakota, the North Dakota State Barbers Association annual convention had to be 30 years ago.
I was going to say North Dakota.
They send me out there to do this show.
Okay.
And I got to get up in front of a group of barbers. Now, remember, at this point, I'm a rookie in the business. I'm a rookie on a stage. And the North Dakota Barbers Association is all guys old enough to be my grandpa.
Wow.
So I'm up on stage, and I'm doing this demo, and I had this guy that was all grown out, and I gave him a really basic, classic tapered haircut. And I, did a nice job on the haircut and everything. And some guy in the front row, again, old enough to be my grandpa, got to have 50 years experience cutting hair compared to my 4 at the time. Out loud, he hollers, yeah, well, I could do that too because that's a head of hair that would cut itself.
Wow.
Now, me, without missing a beat, I walk up to the front edge of the stage and I put my hand over the microphone like no one will, but you can hear me. Like no one's going to hear me. And I looked at him and I go, do you think that I'm going to get up in front of the North Dakota State Barbers Association convention without a model whose hair can cut itself? Well, every guy in the room laughs. The guy kind of smiles and laughs. But to your point of owning it, I don't know. Yeah. And I get up there and go, you don't think I'm going to get up here without a ringer, do you?
Yeah.
Come on.
Why would I bring the hardest, ugliest model on stage? The goal is to make it easier. So
and I was nervous about this presentation, but I got to tell you, that right after that, it smoothed it out. I settled in. Everybody was happy. And it didn't matter what I did at that point because I acknowledged, look, you guys combined, there's 10,000 years experience in the room. 100%. I got about 4 years and 5 minutes worth of experience. Just help me out here. Because
what's awesome too is that, yes, is it valuable to have experience in this industry? 1,000%. What I also feel that's even maybe the same, if not more valuable, is understanding that there's always change and growing with the change. So just because you've been doing hair for 30 years, if you're not evolving with what's happening in today's world, your experience means nothing anymore.
That's, you know what, I don't worry too much about young people coming up in the business. I've been here a long time. It's hard to hit a moving target.
100%.
If I was standing still, many young people would have blown past me long ago. But I mentioned, I got a new class coming out. I got a new tool coming out. I'm going to continue to innovate. I'm going to continue to change. Because if you if you think Ivan's got a target on his back, you better shoot fast because I'm going to move.
100%. You have a comb, a specialized comb that you had that you were selling in a book, right?
I've got 13 books, 14th book coming out
crap.
January 1. So
All right,
I got another.
Talk about that a little bit, because I'm only familiar about the $100,000 barber.
$100,000 haircutter, yep.
The haircutter. That's the only book that I'm aware of. And I know you have a comb. It was like I bought it off you when you went to Official Cuts Academy.
It's called the Zoot comb.
The Zoot comb.
Yeah.
Elaborate on that. What are these other books you're talking about?
You know what? There's just a lot of stuff in here, and I got to get it out. $100,000 haircutter is really the first book that I officially really published. I had written several other books on some self-publishing platforms and things, but the next book was, it's a pair of books called Big Busy Barbershop and Bigger Busy Barbershop. And these books are unique in that the $100,000 haircutter book is a daily devotional. It's one idea a day, every single day for 365 days. You keep it on your night table, you wake up in the morning, you turn to today, you read today, lace up your gym shoes, out the door you go.
Wow.
It's your daily kick in the butt from Ivan. So that's been a real successful book. The Big and Bigger Barbershop books are marketing. It's one tip a week, every week, for 52 weeks in book 1 and 52 weeks in book 2. So there's 2 years. The idea behind those books is read it on Friday, think about it all weekend, and Monday morning implement. But these are marketing strategies to build and grow a barbershop. That's 2 books. One of the more recent ones is something called 100 by 100. That is 100 new haircut customers in 100 days, guaranteed. Wow. The idea is any day can be day one. And it's a day-by-day, step-by-step book, 100 days focused on one thing and one thing only, new client acquisition. So as an example, I haven't got the you can look it up online. I'm going to be close, but don't hold me to it. 100 days from today is going to be approximately Friday, January 21st, give or take. You can look it up and see how close I am.
Wow.
Okay? What that means is if you start today, just close your eyes for a minute and imagine what your life would be like on Friday, January 21st with 100 additional customers. What would your appointment book look like? What would your checkbook look like? What would your parking space behind the shop look like with 100 additional customers? And I guarantee that book. It's a $25 book. If you follow the program and do what's in the book, 100 days later, if you don't have 100 new customers, I'll give you your $25 back.
Wow.
And the reason I know it works is because I've personally done it behind the chair. What'd the calendar tell you?
Friday, January 20th.
I said 21st. So
that's what but how?
You want to know how I know? The reason I know is because I was at a hair show this weekend. I did a presentation on Sunday where I talked about the book, and I remember looking and checking for my presentation that from that point, 100 days would have been Tuesday the 17th. So here with you guys, I just did the fast math, and I figured it would be about the 21st. I'd be close enough.
Man,
so,
wow. That is crazy, man. And then once again, back to the same concept. It's the same lane. My buddy Vic Panya, shout out to my boy Vic Panya. He's releasing his 4th comedy special. One of the hardest workers I know. He'll have 4 shows in a night, and then you'll see him at the open mic that same night. Like it's crazy. And he was like, "Hey," I was like, "Bro, like other than hustling, like what else? You know, what else brings that grind?" And he's like, "Well, dude, just do 1 new joke a day." So he was like, "Get you 1 notebook and just write 1 new joke a day, and then test them out as they go." So ever since then, every time I come home from work, I just check it. And okay, cool. What is something? Because I always go off of a topic or something like that, and then I'll go off.
You got a joke of the day TikTok yet?
No. What?
Man.
Ah.
Oh, dude, this is Ivan Zoot, bro.
Man, that is beautiful. What?
Right now, what was it that you were filming before the podcast? It was a tip of the day, right?
It was a key of the week. I always give a key of the week to people.
A joke of the day would be sweet.
Joke of the day TikTok. You know what? I've been on YouTube since YouTube was like 3 weeks old. Love YouTube. Started playing around with TikTok. I won't claim to be an expert. I'm learning how to play in that arena. But there are a lot of folks that I've come across that do some of these, their thing of the day, whatever it is that they do, in a variety of niches and specialties and things like that. But man, joke of the day, and especially if you've got, as I'm thinking about this idea, because Joke of the day is the kernel. It's the nugget.
Yeah.
Then you got to go, okay, and I don't know, I haven't seen your work yet, and I don't know, you made a reference to, let's talk about my dating life, okay? It could be the dating joke of the day if that's a topic that is who you are.
Yeah.
And man, you would find, I think from the comments from people and from your daily focus on it, all of a sudden, I think the material would just start to flow.
Yeah.
Man, you know what? I'm gonna write that. Thank you.
It becomes easier to. It becomes. It's who you are, bro. So you don't have to put in effort.
Right. It's already and like the thing is, man, like, bro, like, I'm always open to the constructive criticism. So I ask my homies, hey, bro, like, look at this tape, and if you giggle, let me know if you did not laugh at this tape, because I always when I record my sets, I always clip it and then I post. And
I think for an up and coming performer of any kind.
Yes.
But specifically thinking about comedy, you start digging into the comments, you start looking at the likes, and I think one of the things that would be really valuable in that idea would be the shares. Because if stuff's funny, my son and I back and forth, if they're sharing, if they're not sharing, it's not as funny as we think it is.
100%.
But if they're sharing, and you'll know all of a sudden, this one goes viral off the sharing because, and humor can be, and I learned this in our business, humor can be regional. In the hair business, a joke that you tell in a class in Chicago just falls dead in St. Louis, Missouri, or on the West Coast or something like that. You learn all of a sudden that some of these themes are not as universal as you might hope. Yet at the same time, I think it would be so much fun to play with.
Man, thank you for that, though. I appreciate that. That's so cool to, I'm already doing a joke of the day. Why not record it? Why
share
not
it?
share
Absolutely.
it? Man, that's awesome.
I mean, speaking of what he was just saying about, like, I just came from London, right?
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that in my 10 years as an educator and being on one of the biggest stages with biggest companies that I had the opportunity to work with, I had built thick skin because of all the trials and errors and all that. So being in London this past weekend, I'm very confident. I'm at a point now where even if there's 100 people watching me, I never make eye contact with people. I don't know why. Sometimes there's people that love making eye contact, and then there's me where I just kind of look at everybody as I overlook everybody. I feel like once I connect eyes with you, it throws me off track. So I'm very comfortable with never looking at somebody unless I have a specific thing to talk about and I'll point at you. So I'm sitting there cracking these little jokes. And not necessarily jokes. When I teach, I don't just like to tell you what I'm doing and showing you. I like to relate with you. I like to tell you stories on how I figured this problem out. Well, let me share a story because how I figured it out. And in London, I'm throwing these hell makers of jokes, and everyone's just looking at me like stone face. Stone face. I'm asking questions. One of the things that I do as a presenter that I've got from like San Villa is when you run out of things to say, include your audience. So if I'm cutting hair and I don't have anything to say, if you're telling jokes and you're kind of like at a point where like, oh, I don't know what's next.
Crowd work.
Include your audience. Ask questions. So I'll be like, hey, how many hairdressers do we have here? Because in the UK, it's hairdressers, not Cosmos. And then, they call bathroom toilets. They call fries chips. So understanding terminologies and all that. So I'll sit there and I'll include people like, if you're a barber, raise your hand. And people just, no face. So then you have to own it, because if you let that, and if you're not experienced, Ivan, you can agree, if you're not experienced, that'll eat you alive, man. It'll literally crush you, and you would just start cutting hair without talking. And I'm on stage with Benji. Are you familiar with Benji?
Of course.
Puerto Rican brother, barely speaks English. So I'm on there with him.
With a green mohawk.
Yeah, green, beautiful.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that. Yep, I saw it.
I'm on stage with him. Doesn't really speak English, but I love his drive, man. And he's one of the reasons why I'm going to Mexico, because I've never done a Mexico class. And I just told him, I'm like, I'm just not a fan. I'm a strong educator in English. I can hold it down 100%. When I go to Latin America, all of a sudden, I can't speak as well, so I shrink.
They're all in the motherland.
And he was like, you see what I'm doing? He's like, bro, you got so much love in Mexico. He's like, go do it. Go do it, because hair is universal.
Of course.
You don't have to tell them what they're doing. They're watching you. That tells them enough. And by him, he encouraged me, but that's another story. But it just goes to that point where Ivan was saying, is that a joke here or something that hits here, or for barbers, may not hit in the Cosmo class.
Yeah.
And if you're telling a joke in a Cosmo class, I mean, to me, I would prefer doing Cosmo classes, because I feel like whether these ladies have been doing hair for 30, 40, 50 years or just started, they're way more forgiven because they think that barbering is so much harder than.
You know what it comes down to, though? And I've seen this, and you make an interesting point. Cosmetology, especially here in the state of Illinois, has always had continuing education requirements in order to keep your license valid.
Yeah.
Right now, it's 14 hours every 2 years. Barbering has not had that. Traditionally, throughout the nation, barbering and barber license has not had continuing education. The need for the understanding of the importance of and the pursuit of continuing education is part of Cosmo culture. Barbering, on the other hand, among other things, you hear the term classic barbering, and there's a belief in barbering that once you went to school and you know what you know, there is nothing new or different. There's nothing extra. So barbers look at continuing education with a little bit of a side eye. They're a little skeptical of it. Well, I don't need that. I mean, Carlos, you see this all the time. You see guys on the floor at a barber show. They're carrying a bag with a clipper, and they've been in the business an hour and 45 minutes. Man, I could do that. You know,
100%.
I could do that. You know, there's a joke in the industry, you know, the North American Hairstyling Awards, the NAHA Awards, the single greatest award given in the hairdressing industry in North America. The joke is, and it's an old joke in the business, is how many licensed cosmetologists or barbers does it take to win NAHA? Well, it takes 100. One to actually enter and win, and 99 of them to look at the entry and go, man, I could have done that.
Oh, 100%. I was a finalist in 2021.
Yes, I know.
And I lost.
Would you lose to Nevis?
To Nieves, yeah.
You know what? That's respectable.
Oh, I mean,
your work's amazing. His work's amazing.
And he's from I don't
another Chicagoan.
Not just from
They say
Chicago.
Shot City.
Not just from Chicago, but we both grew up in Cicero-town.
Oh, I didn't. I know he's from. I've been down to his school.
I grew up in
his shop
Cicero-town.
many. I didn't know you guys were brothers.
To be in the highest of the highest in the
Both Shot
is the
City.
biggest. You know what's crazy about Naha is that 8 out of 10 barbers had never heard of it.
Well, it never was a barber thing. The barber category within NAHA is only a couple of years old. It's always been a hair. And the funny thing is, it's always been a hairdressing thing, and it had almost always been won by Canadians. The Canadians for many, many years, because the Canadians think they're British, and the British think they're better than us in the beauty industry. And quite frankly, you know, Sassoon comes from that part of the world, and that Sassoon aesthetic and everything that end of the business is all about. I think the Canadians come by that arrogance rightfully. I think the British own that legitimately. But the last several years, especially with the creation of the barber category in NAHA, has seen the Canadian dominance of those awards begin to slip away.
Right.
So, you know, we got a little more red, white, and blue, not just, you know, I think Canada's red. No, Canada's red and white. No,
Yeah,
blue,
red
no
and
blue.
white. Red
okay,
and white.
we got a little blue in there, which is good. But the British are red, white, and blue.
100%. They, what I've learned in London, you know, coming from somebody, we are familiar with what American barbers do. We're really big on the fades and everything that's going on. In London, they're more on the shirt cutting and the hairstyling. They're trying to learn fading a lot better. Not that they don't know how to fade. They're not familiar with hair enhancements. I was out there using color enhancements, and the few friends that I do have out there were telling me, Los, amazing, you're bringing that American style here, that color enhancements. People get roasted for using enhancements out there. And what I tell people is, one of my things I say on stage is like, guys, too many of us are worried about what other barbers and stylists are how they feel about what we do. I never worried my entire 24 years of career. I never cared about what another barber or stylist cared or thought about what I did and how I worked or my enhancements or anything that I do. My goal was to attract the people outside of what we do, because those are the people that are paying us money.
Yeah, barbers don't buy haircuts from barbers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's an expression I love to use in this context. I used it in a class last week, and that is, what other people think of you is none of your business.
That's true.
Yeah, bro. Because at the end of the day, man, you're not. Well, from our side, like a lot of people trying to impress comedians. Like, bro, that's not your market. Those comedians are not gonna buy a ticket to your show because they're out doing performing too.
And they get in for free.
And they get in for free. They get in for free anywhere. You see them. Oh, I didn't see you got a comp ticket, but all right, bro, go ahead, sit down. But like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, yeah, I'm like, bro, you guys are so focused on impressing someone that does the same thing as you, when you should be worried on the person that's gonna buy your shirt. They're gonna wear your shirt. They're gonna shout you out. They're gonna take a picture of you, tag you. They're gonna, you know what I'm saying? It's literally another reason why it's the same.
One of the things that we would always say is like, I always bring a good analogy, like for you example, for barbers, every time we say teaching a class of barbers compared to a class of like Cosmos, it's like if you were doing a comedy show in front of a bunch of comedians instead of an actual audience.
Yeah.
Comedians are gonna sit there and judge everything.
And they wouldn't laugh. Because that's one thing about open mics, man. Like sometimes there's too many comedians. Like sometimes it's actual genuine crowd just looking for people, you know, whatever. And when it's just a lot, everybody's a jokester.
Yeah, it hits a little different.
Yeah.
But when you land one, when you nail one, you know.
Yeah, and at that point, you just do crowd work. When you notice there's a bunch of jokesters, you're like, all right, cool. I'm going to talk about your set, how trash it was. I'm going to talk about, that's my time to be able to say stuff.
Oh,
for
man,
that.
time went flying. All right, we're going to do our Instagram segment now. We got a couple questions from people, and I wanted to just kind of talk about those. This one is from Chelsea. Man, sorry if I chopped this up. Chelsea Cuts. Oh, yeah, Chelsea Cuts. All right, good. What are the main key points into starting a business? I'm sorry.
The main key points into starting a business, I think you go back to what is the main reason why businesses fail. And generally speaking, that is being underfunded. I see people opening up barbershops and hair salons and breaking the bank and spending a fortune to get the doors unlocked and to get the business up and running. And it's interesting. People will ask me online, hey, I'm building a 5-chair barbershop. What is your suggestion for the budget for a 5-chair barbershop for furnitures and fixtures? Common question. I get that all the time. And people are surprised by the answer. The answer right now is the budget for furniture and fixtures to open a barbershop or hair salon in the United States of America is a grand total of 0. The earth, you heard me say it earlier in the podcast, the earth is covered with closed hair salons and barbershops. In a lot of situations, if you agree to sign the lease, the landlord will give you the furniture. In other situations, the landlord just signed a lease for a dry cleaner, and he's got a building filled with hairstyling equipment, and he'll say to you, if you show up with your brother-in-law and a pickup truck, you can have all this crap for free. Why would you go deep into debt to open a business, especially a new person opening a first-time business? You're taking a gamble and a chance here. How about you find a shuttered hair salon? How about you unlock the door and you start serving people and you start generating revenue? And when you demonstrate you can make the cash register ring, recover the chairs. Put a can of paint on the walls. Start slow, start low, start small, start simple. Your first comedy gig is not going to be Madison Square Garden. No. Right?
You're right.
Okay?
Yeah.
To bring it back to our common conversation here. So my single biggest suggestion is whatever you think it's going to take financially, you're wrong. You're going to need double. So knowing you're going to need double go in as cheap as you can, get the door unlocked, get the money flowing, prove the concept,
100%.
Then build a castle and celebrate.
Build a foundation.
100%. You know what? That's so dope because to talk about proving concepts is that my ultimate dream, and this is like 70 years ago, I've always wanted to have a stupid big warehouse, just a big warehouse, not where I could just cut hair, where I could do anything I want. And at first, when it came time to leave Official Cuts after 14 years of being there, I didn't want to open up a barbershop because I knew, based off my 2 years of management at Official Cuts, is that I was tired of babysitting grown men. I couldn't focus on 100% on what I wanted to do because I was too busy focusing on people getting to work on time and greeting customers and all the daily stuff that we go through as managers and bosses. So I opened my first studio, the Lowe's Cutted Studio, that was only 550 square feet. And so many people were confused when I opened it up 5 years ago, and they were like, why? My own mom was like, why didn't you open up a barbershop? People could pay you money and you don't have to work as much. Or why are you going to be in a room by yourself? There's no traffic there. No one's walking in asking for haircuts. And I'm like, you know why? Because I can focus on everything that I'm doing and I can control that. But I couldn't open headquarters without opening that.
You couldn't do that without doing that.
I had to prove the concept and make sure that it worked. For 4 years, I was at that location. And when it got to the point where I would do collabs with people, and everybody wants to bring a friend, everybody wants to bring a couple people, the models want to bring somebody. Before you know it, I'm in a 500 square space with 10, 15 people, and we're like this. And that's when I knew I need to go bigger. So I opened this spot. Now,
and someday you're going to invite me down here with a sledgehammer. We're going to take out a wall, and we're going to expand.
One day, or I can be more than happy to give this to one of my teammates. Keep this running. Let's go bigger somewhere else. So it's the steps. And I think a lot of people just see the end goal and want to get there immediately without building that foundation, the structure. And I could have never made this or even spend all the money that I spent into it if I didn't believe in myself based off the concept that I proved with the smaller space.
I mean, why would God's going to bless you, but if you can't handle that small blessing, what makes you think you're going to be able to handle this big blessing?
It's like I tell people, because I get a lot of Los, what does it take to be a level 3 artist? How can I be sponsored by this? How can I be? I'm like, listen, can you get to work on time first? You're like, if I call your boss, whoever owns your shop, is he gonna say a lot of good things about? I'll guarantee you, Ivan, if you call Mr. Official and you tell him, how was Los as a worker? I promise you, not because we're friends and we're brothers. I was always on time. I never missed an appointment. I never called in sick. My communication skill was always on point. Yeah, did I fuck around with barbers here and there? Did I spray people's pants? Of course, we're all young and dumb, but I was a hard worker, and that's what built my foundation to do all this. Because if you can't even handle that, what makes you think you're gonna?
If you can't take care of dimes, you'll never get to take care of dollars.
Ooh. Hear that?
If you can't pocket 1,000, what makes you pocket a milli?
100%. Next question. This one is from D.TB ____. What's the best way to go about taxes as a high-earning barber?
What's the best way to go about taxes?
Don't do them.
Pay them.
Pay them. Yeah, number one, pay them. Number two, if you don't understand the paperwork, hire somebody that does. I don't like writing checks to my accountant, but I like writing checks to my accountant. It's a necessary evil of doing business, and I can tell you, it saves me having to put the time and energy into that stuff, because I can be using that energy to generate revenue. So the money I'm spending is well invested in that way. And also, these people are experts in their field. Yes. It's the same answer to don't cut your own hair.
Ooh, 100%. And you know what? Now with this, I have to hire a personal accountant now. Like I used to go to a tax lady that would just do the most basic, and I would do most of the work. I would do all the numbers. I'm at a point now where this is beyond me. There's too much coming in. There's too much going out. And if I sat there and did it, I wouldn't have time for everything else that I'm doing.
And there's parts of it you don't understand. If you've bought this building or whether you lease this building, and how do you account for that money, and how do you pay? How do you pay the least amount of tax yet still comply with your obligations and the law?
Oh, I just learned that I can lose money.
Yeah, no.
I just learned this past week because. Obviously, to me now as a business owner, I'm always like, oh man, the year's coming up. That means I gotta start doing my taxes. So I've always been about how can I expense everything that I do, so I pay less. And I was talking to Mr. Fisher, and he got the school and all that going on. And he's like, man, you can expense so much that you can file that you lost in your taxes, and that way you don't have to pay anything. But you obviously have to have the paper to prove it. You can't just.
Yeah, no. Right. And the most important piece of all of this conversation when people are listening is, you got to play legit.
Yeah.
Too many. I mean, if we didn't learn anything from the pandemic, one of the things that we learned is if you were living your life off the grid, when it came time for a stimulus check, you didn't get one.
100%.
Yeah.
And these barbers are all going, what do you mean I don't get a stimmy? And it's like,
you don't exist.
The government doesn't know you exist.
100%.
So, if that's the biggest lesson that came out of the pandemic is, and there's no way you can scale this business. If you just want to be Billy the Barber, cutting hair for less than market value, cash under the table, if that's all you aspire to in life, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
But if at some point you want to own a business, if at some point you want to buy a new car, if you want to charge that car to the business as a business asset instead of personally own it, all of those kinds of things require that your business be legitimized, that it legitimately is on the books properly. And there's no way to scale beyond that. You got to shop, great. You want 3, you're going to have to be legit.
Oh my God, 100%.
Bro, and that's the real thing when you said, like, bro, give it to somebody that knows how to do it. Because I met somebody at a comedy show, and he was like, hey, man, I know this is kind of crazy, but like I know you were talking about, you were joking around about having your LLC and your, whatnot. Like, hey, do you have somebody that does your accounting? I was like, well, to be honest, I'm not generating enough money right now. He was like, well, you're losing money, right? I was like, technically, yeah. And he was like, let's talk. Bruh, he looked at my taxes. He was like, pendejo, you know how much money you're losing? I was like, what? I was like, what? He was like, yeah, I'm going to rescind your refund. And you're going to see, bro, it was the biggest blessing. Shout out to my boy Dale. It was the biggest blessing. Like, I was going to pay. He rescinded it. And now out of nowhere, I'm getting 7 times like what I was going to pay. I was like,
dude, anything as a comedian, as a barber, self-employed, entrepreneur, whatever category you want to go under, anything from the meals you eat to the clothes you wear could be.
He pointed at my stomach, y'all. He was like, from the meals that you eat. No, you ain't lying, bro.
No, but that's what I've learned because every time I go to a show. So one of the bad things I've learned when I first started doing my taxes about 5 years ago, when I first signed with Babylist. Now, I started doing my taxes late. I'm 35 now. I started doing my taxes at 27. Now, to me, that's late because people have been having jobs since, 16? So they've been using their social, all that. I didn't start till like 27, but I'm glad I did it back then.
Of course.
I started learning a lot of things about how it works, and I didn't realize that you can claim so much. There's so many loopholes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Bottom line, don't take out your own appendix.
Yeah, definitely not. Imagine. All right, we got 2 more questions that I want to talk about. In your opinion, Ivan, this is from Dean Gleason. I'm sure he's from London. I feel like I met him in London this past weekend. He wants to know, in your opinion, would you grow a team or focus on your own goals?
Would grow a team or focus on your own goals? I think it depends on where you are in the business. Because growing a team, owning a shop today, if you're not, and keep in mind, if you rent chairs, you don't own a barber shop. If you rent chairs, you're a landlord. They're not employees, they're tenants, you're a landlord. So let's take that off the table. If you're going to operate a commission business, operating a commission business is not really about building a brand. Everybody loves to use that buzz phrase, building a brand. Owning a barbershop or hair salon that is a commission-based business is about accepting the responsibility for the future of the people who choose to be a part of your organization. And any business, as an owner or manager, you're a trainer, an educator, and a coach first. Your job is to make these people a success. Are some of them going to outgrow you and leave you and move on to their own businesses? I hope so, because that's a sign of you being successful. 100%. If somebody works for you forever, great, congratulations to both of you, but there's a little bit of failure in there. Now, if that person doesn't aspire to anything greater, that's fine. But getting back to the question, it is, if you choose to accept the mantle of leadership, if you say, I'm going to be a shop owner, you're taking responsibility for these people. Now, you said, I'm tired of babysitting adults. There's a difference between babysitting adults and nurturing people on their growth journey. So meeting with an employee to go over their weekly statistics, discussing their quarterly goals, analyzing their productivity report. Those are the tasks of a serious salon owner. If those things don't get you excited, cultivating and growing these people, go do your own thing. Go be your own one-man band. And by the way, there are some great one-man shows out there. I am essentially at this point in my career a one-man show. You know, let's not give credit to my wife, who does all the bookkeeping, all the taxes, all the accounting, all the airplane tickets, all the hotels, and keeps the entire business afloat. But it's me. It's my face. It's my name on everything. I don't have employees. I don't have team members. I am single-mindedly focused on the brand that is me.
Right.
But that's what I've chosen to do at this point in my career. There was another point in time in which I operated a commission haircutting establishment. I was serving clients at my chair a part of my time, but the rest of my time was focused and devoted on making sure these people achieved their goals. So it's a very different choice of life path. I don't think one or the other is better. I don't think either one is right or wrong, but just make sure you understand the bargain you've made and what you've attempted to do and what's required of you to do it.
100%.
Because it's no longer the me show, it's the you show at that point.
That's a great answer. I didn't think about it like
That's
that.
another clip, JC.
That's another clip.
JC's just over there taking notes.
Taking notes. All right, last one. This one comes from Fade. These names. Fades X-Dre, X-D-R-E. Fades X-Dre. She's a Dallas barber. She wants to know, where have you found motivation when you find yourself stuck in repetitive motion as a barber?
Motivation. You know, the word motivation is interesting because I always say I am motivated to eat well until I am motivated to have a Snickers. You know, and I can be motivated to do both. But I understand the point of the question is what keeps you moving forward, what drives you. You know, I truly enjoy helping people. The tools that I've created, the books that I've written, the classes that I go out there to do. My mission is to help people grow in this business. When I put the number 100,000 on the front of a book and I tell people you can do this, I want to help people do that. I love when people come back to a show and go, dude, I've had people show me paperwork to say, look, I made 97,000 last year. I came so close. Next year, I'm going to do it. That feels super. You know, when somebody tells you your book really was the thing that made the difference for me on the days I didn't want to get out of bed and put my feet on the floor and go play hair. That's nice when it doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen from time to time. So that drives me forward. Plus, then the other thing is, again, we go back to the young whippersnappers. They're right behind me. They're on my heels. They want a piece of this game. And the game is big enough. There's enough for everybody. But you ain't getting my piece.
100%. Oh, yeah, it's huge.
That's my ribeye.
It's huge.
Made you laugh again. So, no, man. It's always...
That's 2 in an hour.
2, man.
You've almost got a routine.
World record, baby. Let's go. World record for the worst jokes. But yeah, man. Honestly, bro, from the outside looking at it, man, I enjoyed this conversation a lot. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, before the shows, Carlos tells me, hey, we're having this person. Hey, we're having this person. And sometimes I do already know who they are. Honestly, I didn't know, but I'm super glad I didn't because, like, now, like, I see you. You're a ball of information.
Oh, 100%.
And even, bro, you're talking terminology in the barber world. I'm already, man, I could use it. So thank you.
Now, if you want to use something, I'll tell you this. You'll need to know this for the future. Have you ever heard the definition of creativity?
No.
The definition of creativity is possessing the ability to disguise the source. If people don't know where you got it from, it's original.
Hey, yo.
Okay, that is your license to steal.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Hey, look, Ivan threw it at me,
clip
bro.
right there.
Hey, he threw it at me, bro. So, I'm going to all these shows from California. I'm gonna go over there. I'm gonna steal everybody's joke and then come bring it out.
But you know what? It all goes with. So one of the things that I get praised on a lot is being creative with my hairstyles. But what people don't understand is that all those ideas came from either one, other people, or designs on a carpet, designs on graffiti.
You saw it. You were inspired. You were inspired somewhere.
But I was able to make it my own. That it disguised the source, which is insane.
Which is crazy because it's perfect timing because one of the Chicago comedians, a veteran, just went on this huge Facebook rant about he saw a younger comedian take his joke, and then I heard his joke, but then I went to the younger comedian's joke. It was similar, but the younger comedian's joke hit a lot harder because he made it his own.
He tweaked it and made it his own.
He tweaked it and he made it better.
It's like Drake said, it's not about who did it first, it's about who did it right.
Exactly. So if you see me steal, I'm kidding. But man, thank you, man. Dude, such an amazing episode, bro. I think
this is the first episode that I feel flew. I looked at the time thinking it was about 30 minutes in, and it was an hour in. I'm like, oh my God, there is so much more we can talk about. But what's cool is this is season 1. We're aiming for 12 episodes. I have Sophie coming up next and a lot of other people that are coming in that I don't want to just give away. I just gave away Sophie because she's a big one. But Ivan, you definitely had to be one of them that had to be in here. And there's so much more that I still have on my list that I want to talk about. So I definitely want to bring you back for season 2. We want to do a different look, feel, a facelift to the podcast.
I'll lose 10 pounds too.
Yeah. But like I said, there's a lot more that we could go on for. And one thing I know about Ivan is that we could go on for hours. For hours to talk.
I'm going to age myself here when I say you don't have enough tape.
Oh, I believe it. Trust me, I've seen this guy. I know. Great host, guys. If you guys need a host for your event, definitely this guy's full of knowledge. If you guys are just finding out about Ivan Zoot, feel free to follow him. Just let the people know where they can find you and everything you have to offer, too.
It's Ivan Zoot. It's ivanzoot.com. It's Ivan Zoot on Twitter. It's ivan.zoot on the new TikTok. It's Ivan Zoot on YouTube. And most importantly, when you go to ivanzoot.com, there's a little red button on there that says Talk to Ivan. Nice. If you click on that button, it opens up a page where you put in your name, your email address, and your question. I don't have people. It's an email directly to me. And my commitment is I answer all those emails within 24 hours, as long as I'm not on a plane somewhere. And fortunately, a lot of the answers to a lot of the questions are, thank you for your question. Click the link below and watch the video, because I've captured so many of the FAQs on the video. And chances are, if you ask a question I don't have a video for, I might just record a video, because it's easier to do video than it is to type.
100%.
But that's my way of being accessible to anybody and everybody in the business that wants to build and grow their business.
Well, Ivan, thank you so much, man. It was a pleasure to have you here.
My friend, I'm glad I had an opportunity to come down and visit headquarters to see the space. It's as cool as it is when you see it on Instagram.
Oh, thank you.
And at some point in my life, I aspire to owning something worthy of driving in the overhead door. Because
one day we'll have, even if you got to rent it, we'll bring it.
Truth of the matter was, my wife came down with me. And of course, we brought her Subaru, as I mentioned. I've got a truck. I got a nice truck. And I looked at the truck yesterday and I go, I can't go there if I don't wash the truck. And I was going to wash the truck, and then it rained, and I'm like, and my wife's like, well, it's all shiny and water spots. It looks really nice. I go, it doesn't look nice enough for headquarters.
Oh, we'll definitely, yeah. What I want to do is, instead of people just walking in, seriously, for the podcast, why not drive in?
I expected you to ask me to drive in.
I think that was the ugly weather.
It's not a day for that. But
definitely not.
But if I have to, you give me enough notice, I'll go rent a car. so I can pull in here with something impressive.
Oh, we gotta have you back. I definitely want you back. There's a lot
I'm
more.
gonna pull in with a beater, bro.
Hey, man.
I'm gonna see if I can get like a '74 Dodge Dart with the rusted fenders
Oh,
flapping.
beautiful.
Oh, we got-
I'm gonna
we
get a
got-
Dodge Neon, bro, all green.
Hey,
too.
my wife had a Neon.
Hey.
She liked that car.
Well, Ivan, appreciate your time, man. Thank you so much. And yeah, thank you for being a part of, a guest and a part of In the Cut episode. We got Baby Horchata here, guys. Stay tuned. Make sure you like, subscribe, and follow. Stay tuned for the next one. Let's go.
Real cool to be here. Super fun to participate in the conversation. Got to make a new friend who thinks he's funny. That could be good too.